Let's return to our top story, and that's South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, who is in the UK as part of the first state visit hosted by King Charles III as monarch. For more on this, we can cross live to London and speak with our Arise chief correspondent, John Cookson. John, great to have you on Newsday. Now, please give us a little more detail of the two-day state visit. What are the likely highlights?
Hi there, great to see you and great to be on Newsday. We're hoping to bring you some pictures at some point of the state visit that's already got underway, and it's a day really of big highlights for the South African president. He met already with the Prince and Princess of Wales. They went to his hotel to collect him, as it were, and take him to Whitehall and Horse Guards Parade, where he'll be officially greeted by the King and the Queen Consort Camilla after the protocols of hellos and welcome to Britain. Then Ramaphosa will be taken in an Irish state coach drawn by horses up the Mall towards Buckingham Palace for more greetings by officials there. This afternoon, he'll visit Westminster Abbey and lay a wreath on the tomb of the unknown soldier, and also visit a memorial stone to late President of South Africa, Nelson Mandela. Later on in the afternoon, towards about 5 o'clock Nigeria time, he'll address both houses of Parliament, House of Commons, House of Lords. Following again in Mandela's footsteps, Mandela gave a speech to Parliament back in 1996. And then tonight, I suppose, the cherry on the cake of a day of pomp and ceremony and tiaras and white tie and tails. There'll be a sumptuous banquet tonight at Buckingham Palace, and no one lays on a banquet quite like the royal family. Ramaphosa will make a speech, as will King Charles, which is likely to focus on the strength of further trade ties and also strengthening of the Commonwealth. That's the first day. Tomorrow he'll meet with the Earl of Wessex and go to a meeting about the environment. He'll meet with Rishi Sunak, the British Prime Minister. There's another banquet at the Guildhall before he says goodbye to the King and Camilla tomorrow evening. So a busy agenda and a real red carpet welcome for the President of South Africa.
Right. Well, while Cyril Ramaphosa is wining and dining with royalty, so to speak, he is facing serious political difficulties back at home. From a corruption scandal, former President Jacob Zuma possibly going back to prison, record highs of inflation, unemployment, power outages, you name it. Will this visit help him solve any of his problems in any way?
It could do, and I'm sure he's happy to be out of South Africa at the present time. You also should mention the leadership of his party. There's a vote for that in December, which is he's likely to win. And then there's a general election in 2024. But, you know, a fellow parading on the world stage, meeting with the British royal family, being feted by the royal family, must boost him in the short term. But where these corruption stories are going, we'll have to wait and see. He came to power as the so-called clean president, and then we had this robbery at his farm where $4 million worth of cash was allegedly taken by robbers. It was found stuffed in furniture in the farm. And not only that, there are allegations that the South African president tried to cover it all up. All these allegations he strongly denies. So he's getting a respite from the political flack that he's getting at home. And for sure, this will, to some degree, boost his standing, not only with his party, but also with South Africa. But the whiff of corruption will always be there, and until he's charged, perhaps. And he said if he was charged, then he would stand down as president. So difficult days for Ramaphosa.
Difficult indeed. Well, John, what does Britain stand to benefit from Cyril Ramaphosa's visit?
I think you can boil that down to the solidifying and furtherance of trade ties between the two countries. Britain's dealings with Africa, 30% of British exports go to South Africa alone, and it's worth about $14 billion a year. So that's a sizable amount of money. We are now looking at the event down at Horse Guards Parade. Soldiers getting ready to march past the South African president. He's not brought his wife with him this time. She's actually recovering from an eye operation, but here we see the start of the official visit getting underway.
All right, yeah, definitely rare to see him with his wife. Now, you earlier made mention to a meeting between the South African president and British Prime Minister tomorrow. Now, in light of those bilateral ties that you've already shared a little bit on, are there any outcomes of this meeting that we're expecting tomorrow?
I think that, again, boosting trade ties has to be top of the agenda. But the interesting point about this meeting is that Ramaphosa has always remained fairly neutral as far as the Ukraine war is concerned. He has a good relationship with Moscow. And for sure, Rishi Sunak will be sounding him out to find out what the mood is in Moscow at the moment and try to get some indication that Ramaphosa may have picked up about Putin's the direction of the war, where he wants it to go. So I'm sure there'll be questions about the Ukraine war, which they'll be discussed between the two leaders.
Well, John, of course, now we're seeing some of those live pictures with the British Prime Minister. Can you just tell us more about what we expect from this? You know, based on this walk that we're seeing, looks like a welcome ceremony almost.
Yes, the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary arriving for the official greeting at Whitehall. Horse Guards Parade, not very far from Downing Street. Sunak probably walked from the back of Downing Street to Horse Guards, and somewhere in there we'll no doubt see in a few minutes King Charles III, his first state visit. Incidentally, this visit was organised by his late mother, the Queen, back in 2019, but it had to be postponed because of COVID. And so this is part of the Queen's legacy. She wanted to see Ramaphosa in London and to talk with him, to do matters to do with the Commonwealth and persuading South Africa to remain a member of the Commonwealth. South Africa, of course, a key player in the African Union, and where the South Africans tread, then other countries like Kenya and Nigeria often follow. So to keep South Africa on side was the Queen's intention in respect of remaining in the Commonwealth. Now, that looks like the Irish state coach I mentioned, having travelled up the Mall and arriving at Buckingham Palace.
Well, it certainly gives one goosebumps as one recalls when Nelson Mandela went on a similar journey in London. That's Rise Chief Correspondent John Cookson. Thank you so much for your insight on President Cyril Ramaphosa's state visit to the United Kingdom.